Time for FFT Express. We are talking about the Deebo trade and the Rams bringing back Matthew Stafford right now. All right, it's Adam Azer and Dave Richard. All right, so what's your big reaction here? Who's the biggest winner for you in this Deebo deal?
It's a receiver in San Francisco. You can take your pick from Jauan Jennings or from Ricky Pearsall. Those two guys now have clear paths to being full-time players for the 49ers, and it'll be even more so once the 49ers trade Brandon Ayuk. It sounds like he's on the trading block. That'll be interesting to see what type of compensation they get for him, because contract issue, plus he's coming off of a bad injury. We'll just wait and see and put Brandon Ayuk on the back burner. But I think the 49ers receivers, I like Jauan Jennings now as a low-end number 3 receiver. That's in full PPR. I think the target volume could be north of 7 per game on a regular basis. We know that he can win in the red zone. Ricky Pearsall's got huge upside. The dude is a great route runner. He's got good speed. We saw him beat up on bad secondaries once he got his legs under him, and he was healthy last year. He could take a nice step forward. These are 2 wide receivers that I think will be popular on draft day.
Okay. Do you think it's a win for Deebo? By the way, Deebo Samuel?
Deebo? No.
Like Deebo deal?
No. I don't think he's a huge winner. It's good that he's going to a team where there's less competition for targets, because in San Francisco, let's face it, there were a lot of guys there. Yeah. But I don't know if he's necessarily on a team that's going to throw a lot more than what he's used to in San Francisco. I'm definitely suspect about how many rushes he'll get with the Commanders. I think he's still going to be used as a short area target, just as he was in San Francisco. Just how Olamide Zaccheaus and De'Ami Brown were used in Washington last year. Those guys are free agents, by the way, so they're walking out the door. Deebo's going to take their job, at least to begin the year. And we know that even though he's 29 years old, he's got an injury track record. Sometimes when he plays hurt, he's ineffective. And he's not going to be the number 1 option on the Commanders. And the Commanders could still add something else to this passing game. So, yeah, we could talk about he's got a quarterback upgrade and, definitely more opportunities for playing time and targets compared to San Francisco. But I'm not going to be bullish on him at all. I said it on the main show. He's not a top 36 wide receiver for me. I would take both Jennings and Pearsall over Deebo Samuel as of now.
He still averaged more than 8 yards after the catch per reception, which is amazing.
That's really good. But how many yards did he get before the reception?
It wasn't so much the yards that was, it was the issue, but I think the targets were really the biggest issue, because down the stretch for Deebo Samuel, I'll just pull up his game log, but you've got games with 2 targets, 3 targets, 20 yards, this kind of stuff. So
yeah, and I would expect more than that, obviously.
Yeah, well, maybe I exaggerate a little. More like 3 or 4 targets, but you do have some pretty bad. Like think about that Week 17 game, the fantasy championship, basically against the Lions, where Brock Purdy and Jared Goff went berserk, a high-scoring game. He had 1 catch for 5 yards and a touchdown in that game on 1 target. He just really was just not a big factor in the offense. That was disappointing. But yeah, here in Washington, I like it. I do like it for him. I think around 8-ish, if we can make it there in a 12-team league, that'd be good. But yeah, never an end zone. That's the thing about McLaurin. Like McLaurin, biggest jump for him, all these end zone targets. I mentioned this at the top of our big show. 16 end zone targets for Terry McLaurin in 2024. 17 for Deebo Samuel in his entire 6-year career. It's just never been an area where Deebo Samuel has gotten a lot of attention, gotten a lot of work. So I knew the Commanders were going to bring in some wide receiver. This doesn't feel like a death knell for Terry McLaurin, just in terms of the touchdown, at least. So you weren't too disappointed for McLaurin.
No, still a top 20 fantasy receiver, but not a top 12. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. McLaurin had a monster year last year. It was because of the touchdowns. You've got to assume that he catches fewer touchdowns this coming year.
Yeah, because he only had 120-ish targets, 117 in 17 games. So we'll take a quick break. I want to get your thoughts on what's next for the 49ers, as there are some Brandon Ayuk trade rumors as well. We'll be right back on FFT Express. We're back, and Brandon Ayuk could be on the move. He may not be ready for week 1, coming off the knee injury. What's next for the Niners, you think?
I think they might have to settle for whatever they can get for Ayuk, and a team that's desperate for a wide receiver long term would take Ayuk. But I think what's next for them is they trade Ayuk and then they draft a fast receiver in April. And that's what they go with at wide receiver. And they still have 3 guys that they really like. Plus, they've got George Kittle at tight end and whatever running backs that they have left on their roster, with Christian McCaffrey leading the way. And I don't think it's going to be, a massive drop off from what they had on their roster last year this time, or after the draft, I guess I should say, because Pearsall was on their roster. But it's not like you look at the 49ers and Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle, receiver TBD, and go, oh man, this is a ferocious offense. Watch out for the 49ers. I think having Christian McCaffrey, if he's healthy, that's when you might really say, all right, 49ers are going to be a good offense. Will they be dominant? Who knows? So I think it's going to hurt the value of Brock Purdy. I'm not sure if Brock Purdy might even get drafted in a 1 QB league with all these changes.
Okay, Dave. So let's talk about the Rams here. If there were a veteran quarterback on the move that would have made a big impact maybe for a team, it could have been Stafford. I think people were skeptical that he was really going to get moved. So he's back.
I was, yes.
Yeah. And, Cup's probably going to get traded, but it's status quo for Stafford. We know what he is. He could be a good streaming quarterback for a little bit of a stretch, but he doesn't run at all, and he's old. But what does this mean for the rest of the quarterback needy teams and the NFL draft coming up?
It's bad for them because they're not going to get their hands on who might have been the best available quarterback that was available. I mean, you measure Stafford up against Rodgers and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and Sam Darnold. I don't think it's
not close.
You don't think so? You think it's Stafford who was the best of the bunch?
I think you'd have to say that. You could, yeah.
Sure.
I don't even know who you can make a case for. Rodgers,
honestly, I think the only guy you could make the case for would be Cam Ward, just because Cam Ward is 15 years younger.
I meant the veterans.
Sure, but like if you're trying to upgrade your quarterback spot, it's going to be really difficult to do. And maybe the Rams realize that, and obviously they did what Stafford needed to feel good about staying there. I'm happy that he's staying there. I was nervous about him going, the potential of playing for a team that plays outdoors. He's never done that over the course of his career. Changing teams, changing offenses, and doing all that stuff. There's always uncertainty there as far as, how soon will he get his timing there. Now he's staying in LA. He knows the offense. He knows the play caller. Puka is going to be his number 1 wide receiver. They will add somebody. This is another team that will add a wide receiver in the draft. That could be a splash move that helps that offense stay very dangerous. And as long as Stafford's getting protected well, as long as that offensive line stays moderately healthy, Stafford's going to give them a shot. Again, not somebody that I think fantasy managers are going to race to draft, might not get picked in a 1 QB 12-team league, but somebody who can help sustain the value for Puka. Think about what there was a rumor going around that Stafford would leave LA, Aaron Rodgers would come to LA. Think about how Aaron Rodgers struggled to get on the same page, even with Devontae Adams for a few weeks, once Adams came to New York last year. And then project that onto Puka Nacua, it would have been a nightmare. Nacua would have been overdrafted. Now it's not going to happen. Stafford stays. Nacua is still a top 3 fantasy receiver. All's well in the world.
And that is it for Fantasy Football Today Express. Thank you, Dave Richard. We'll talk to you all on Wednesday. See ya.